अस्सलाम वालेकुम एंड वेलकम टू काम कहानी, अ पॉडकास्ट फॉर द करियर क्यूरियस। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं दरख्शां शेख वोहरा। शी इज़ अ लॉयर टर्न्ड एंटरप्रेन्योर। So let's listen to her Kaam Kahani. Assalamu alaikum Darakhshan, how are you?
Walaikum assalam Haris, how are you?
I'm good. So Darakhshan, my first question is, you were a lawyer, you still are a lawyer, but you practiced law at a very prestigious law firm for over 20 years. उसके बाद you came into entrepreneurship and then you did, you sort of took the entrepreneurship world by storm and you sort of participated and partnered with multiple ventures, and now you're doing Son Valley Tech, right?
Yes.
So what's the next, what's the plan for the next 5 years?
So the plan for the next 5 years is to constantly work and reinvent yourself and to pursue the career in entrepreneurship and to take Son Valley to new heights. So मेरा background ये है कि obviously मैंने पूरी ज़िंदगी बाहर गुजारी थी, बचपन से हांगकांग में थी, सिंगापुर में थी, एक्सपोजर बहुत ज़बरदस्त मिला, मल्टीपल नेशनैलिटीज़, डिफरेंट वे ऑफ एजुकेशन। फिर मैं यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ब्रिस्टल गई, वहाँ पे मैंने लॉ पढ़ा। मेरे वालिद की ख्वाहिश थी कि मैं वकील बनूँ। मेरी ख्वाहिश नहीं थी।
Was he also a lawyer?
No, my father was so the background is my whole family is in business. It's a business trade family.
ठीक है।
तो बचपन में यही देखा, बट मेरे वाले साहब को ये था कि आई वांट यू टू बी अ लॉयर बिकॉज आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर यू कैन एक आइडियल होती है सिचुएशन के बेटा दैट्स वेयर यू कैन कंबाइन अ करियर एंड फैमिली एंड एंड वांटेड मी टू हैव दिस बैलेंस्ड लाइफस्टाइल. तो I believed, I've always very strongly believed because my father and myself are very, very close. So I wanted to first be an artist and I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to do everything but law. बट जब उन्होंने कहा तो मैंने कहा कि सर कि तुम कर लो, 3 साल देखो तुम्हें समझ में आता है या नहीं. सो आई वेंट टू द यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ब्रिस्टल टू स्टडी लॉ, और उसके दरमियान में मेरे वालिदैन जो है वो कराची आ गए वापस. तो मैंने 3 साल वकालत पढ़ी, डिडंट रियली एंजॉय द स्टडी ऑफ लॉ.
Okay.
So मैं वापस आई and then I took a year. I thought I'd take a year to find my feet and see as a sabbatical.
बिल्कुल.
वहाँ पे मैंने शुरू कोई 3-4 महीने ब्रिटिश काउंसिल में काम किया, बहुत अच्छा एक्सपोजर मिला. एंड देन आई गॉट अ चांस टू जॉइन लियाकत मर्चेंट एसोसिएट्स. सो माय फादर सेड व्हाई डोंट यू ट्राई इट. ओके, यू डिडंट लाइक द स्टडी ऑफ लॉ बट मे बी यू लाइक द प्रैक्टिस ऑफ लॉ. सो उसमें क्या हुआ कि द मिनट वो एक होता है कि देयर इज अ मोमेंट यू हैव लाइक एन एपिफनी और अ चेंजिंग मोमेंट इन योर लाइफ. तो मैं वहाँ गई एंड इट वाज अ कम्प्लीटली डिफरेंट एनवायरनमेंट फ्रॉम द ब्रिटिश काउंसिल. And मैंने वहाँ in the first day, in the first opinion and review that I did, I knew this is what I want to do with my life. So एक चीज़ मैं कहूँगी कि the practice of law and the study of law are two different things.
अच्छा.
So ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप बहुत अच्छे पढ़ने में हो तो आप अच्छे वकील बने. अच्छे वकील बनने के लिए और भी बहुत सारी स्किल्स चाहिए होती हैं. मैंने बहुत शौक से किया, बहुत मेहनत की, और उससे ज़्यादा मुझे था कि मैं एटलीस्ट 3-4 साल मेहनत करके जल्दी से एक मुकाम तक पहुंच जाऊँ.
ठीक है.
So I was very lucky to have a very supportive atmosphere at Liaquat Merchant Associates, and quickly rose up and got to work with all the partners. And then I became a partner very early on. I was just 26 and a half when I became a partner. But I worked. And
that's rare for a man or woman, right?
That's rare for anybody. But because I was totally committed to doing that, and I think एक singular focus एक चीज़ को करने के लिए बहुत important होता है. और मुझे ये था कि I had something to prove also कि this is what I can do. And then I went on to work on amazing deals. पाकिस्तान में ये है कि आप when you're a lawyer, especially in the field of corporate law, you have the ability to work on many different transactions. We're not boxed in the same way अगर आप एक foreign counsel हैं. तो मुझे that was the grounding for where I am today. So I got to work a lot on the side of banking and finance, legal and regulatory affairs. मैंने फिर VCs के साथ भी किया, private equity भी किया, और बहुत सारी चीज़ें की. एट दैट टाइम अभी भी फीमेल पार्टनर्स बहुत कम हैं, बट उस वक्त तो बहुत ही कम होती थी. तो got to work in that atmosphere, but I started getting an itch sort of 15 years in कि I need to start planning for the next step. और ये चीज़ जो है ना, ये बड़ी मुश्किल होती है because you're established, you have children, you have a very steady work income, you're building a business because as a lawyer or as a partner, you build a business, right? You're also an entrepreneur in a way,
बिल्कुल.
क्योंकि आपकी salary नहीं होती है. So you're always
What, in
building
a law firm?
In a law firm. So
आपकी
when
salary
you,
नहीं होती है.
when you become a partner, then you become responsible for business development, building your own team. So that is a middle step to entrepreneurship, because what you generate is what you take home.
The partner होते हैं वो they're actually like shareholders.
They're actually shareholders.
अच्छा, तो they're literally partners.
You're literally partners. So there are different levels.
I always thought it was just a sort of a designation or something.
No. So what happens is that you build that up, right? So that also teaches you, and I really once I finished, having my children, I focused on business development, and I was told that, औरतें partners होती है, but they can't be successful as business development because you can't put in that amount of time. There's a lot of travel required, a lot of socializing, a lot of networking required in order to build that network.
So what gave you that sort of strength or impetus कि आप ये फैसला कर लें बस ये मैं करूँगी?
So मैंने interestingly in 2019 I said 2020 is the year.
अच्छा, oh
I
no.
said 2020 is the year.
It was the year.
It was the year for everything.
Yes.
So it was in my mind कि अब I need to 2020 is the year when I'm going to embark on reinvention of Darakhshan. So I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to start off with consulting and see where that takes me, because what I wanted to do was be operational and on the ground and running either my own startup or my own business. And I felt that the grounding in the previous couple of years, मुझे वो इतनी confidence मिल गई थी कि मैं I can go out and build my own thing. I can go out and meet people and create a network, etc., etc. So in January 2020, I handed in my early retirement resignation as senior partner, and I said this. So there was a lot of pushback, but eventually it was accepted, and मेरा ये था कि March 31st March को I will be free. It so happened that COVID happened, and then we all went home on the 15th. So I never got to serve out that period, etc. And in that time, I had to then figure out कि what is the next step, ये किस तरह लेके चलना है. तो
घर पे बैठ के
and it was a difficult time, because that was the time to transition, and then the children were also at home and they needed, suddenly everything was, our lives were boxed in. There was complete uncertainty where it will go, and at that time मैंने बहुत अपने आप को question किया कि did I take the right decision in taking this step at this particular time. And what I did was I partnered with my partner Emma Jalal, and we decided to work together in multiple fields of consultancy, because we could rely on at least our strengths in terms of finance, accounting, law, and see the ventures that we could support during this phase, and use our experience in order to support those ventures. So that's how we started working.
And how do you, so just a question, how do you find the right partner? How do you know कि अच्छा यार इसके साथ partner करते हैं, it will work out? How do you take that bet?
अच्छा, so मेरा ये है कि partner जो है आपका वो आपके spouse से ज़्यादा important होता है, because actually we spend a far more amount of time at work and working with that person. So it's the same thing, like whether you're setting up a venture capital firm or a consultancy or a business, it's always good to have a history of working with that person.
ठीक है.
You have some interaction, where you know that your working style, your vision, where you see yourself, like you said, in the next 5 years, which I still haven't got to do, is where you want to be. So आपका एक common एक grounding होनी चाहिए. दूसरी बात यह है, if you work together, then you understand that you have certain complementary qualities जो आपकी होती हैं साथ में. तो मैंने अमन फाउंडेशन की एडवाइजरी करती थी, तो वहाँ पे मैंने अहमद के साथ काफ़ी काम किया था, टीम के साथ काम किया था. तो his leaving Aman and my going out on this journey was,
came together.
Yeah, we came together and we said it's a difficult time, why don't we work together? Because two heads are rather better than one, and we sat through and we worked out the modalities. And
law and finance is also a good complementary kind of a good partnership. Yeah,
so the idea behind the consultancy of Zambil Partners was that it's like an all-in-one boutique shop, right? It's like a hands rolled up operators who understand how to work on the ground, but can also give the advisory at various levels. And really, when you're advising businesses, you don't need a partial approach. You know, bits and pieces, जब multiple advisors होते हैं तो वो उनका एक जेल नहीं बनता है. तो वहाँ से हमने शुरू किया. तुम्हारा एक असाइनमेंट था, हमने कंसल्टेंसी करना शुरू की एक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हाउस की, और वो आहिस्ते आहिस्ते एक ऑपरेटिंग पार्टनर बन गए. सो वी आर बोथ ओनर ऑपरेटर्स विद इन अ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हाउस कॉल्ड पैरासेल्सिस. So that was the first part of the journey being completed to get something into an on ground operation.
और this was the first time कि आप लोगों ने operations में participate किया, because you were a lawyer, you would advise companies but not be part of the operations.
Yeah, for me it was the first time. For Ahmed, of course, he was at Aman, so he had been CEO, so he had that grounding of running large scale operations.
Right.
For me it was the first time. And within distribution, in any case, there are no women, right? So I started off, पहले मेरा बहुत एक legal और compliance का role था, but क्योंकि हमें वो कहते थे you very quickly, like I said, very quickly need to see the next step. तो उस distribution house को restructure करके, उसको लेके चल के, उसको profitable और operational उसकी efficiency देखने के लिए we really needed to both be on the ground, because it's a national distribution. So we are across Pakistan, we're all the way from here to Lahore, Multan, Faisalabad, Islamabad, Pindi, etc.
Is it just pharmaceutical distribution, or?
No, we do pharmaceutical distribution as well as consumer healthcare and FMCG.
Okay.
So it's a very diverse blend. Plus we do logistics, buffer handling, operations, carton handling, lots and lots of different types. So we do institutional businesses, tendering. So there's so many multiple facets to it that we really needed to work together, and that's how I came into the operational side of the logistics and the warehousing and the transport, and that's where we started coming up with the idea for Sohan Valley.
And I think lawyers also have to, like, when you in your corporate law practice you must have worked with इतनी सारी companies के साथ काम किया होगा, और उनकी बिजनेस मॉडल समझने पड़े होंगे, और उनके साथ एक्सपीरियंस रहा होगा, तो आई थिंक दैट मस्ट हैव गिवन यू लाइक अ डीपर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ बिजनेस एज वेल.
हाँ, तो आई वाज वेरी लकी इन द सेंस दैट आई वर्कड विद अ लॉट ऑफ क्लाइंट्स who I didn't just give legal advice to. So very early on in my career there was a very senior lawyer जिन्होंने मुझे कहा कि to be a good lawyer is not to just give legal advice. आपने commercially अपने client का हाथ पकड़ना होता है, उसको guide करना होता है, which means कि आपकी understanding should be beyond the book part of it, should be beyond what is written in the statute or what is written in जो court की readings होती है, case law होता है. आपने taxation समझना होता है. As a corporate lawyer आपने taxation एक कमर्शियल वेंचर को प्रॉफिटेबल बनाने के लिए उसकी क्या की पॉइंट्स हैं, और उसकी इवन इफ यू कांट डू द नंबर्स एंड यू कांट डू द एक्सेल, बट यू कैन रेज द फ्लैग्स टू गेट द राइट एडवाइस. सो very early on that was inculcated in me, and I worked with great clients who I sat through their commercial meetings, their restructurings, and that's how I learned. I mean, I learned that as a corporate lawyer you should know how to read a balance sheet, you should understand audited accounts, you should understand what profit and loss is, and that was great grounding. I didn't realize it at the time, मगर वो बहुत ही ज़रूरी है अगर आपने बिजनेस में आना है या कोई कमर्शियल वेंचर करना है, तो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट योर लीगल एडवाइस की एक रिपरकशन होती है. आप अपने क्लाइंट को अगर ऐसी चीज़ बताएंगे कि ये चीज़ आप ना करें, तो अगर वो उसके बिजनेस को हर्ट करनी, आपने यू हैव टू बी प्रोवाइडिंग सोल्यूशन.
तो रियल वर्ल्ड में उसकी क्या रिपरकशंस होगी, यू शुड नो दैट ऑलरेडी.
जी, और आहिस्ता आहिस्ता आप देखिएगा तो सो लॉ हैज़ इवॉल्व्ड इन दैट. लाइक इफ यू आर नॉट अ सोल्यूशन प्रोवाइडर, यू आर नॉट अ गुड लॉयर, वेदर यू आर ऑन द कॉर्पोरेट साइड और द लिटिगेशन साइड.
And when, so you mentioned कि आपको बहुत सारी चीज़ें सीखनी पड़ती हैं, like to read a balance sheet, etc. तो how did you pick up those skills, and how does one sort of upskill themselves while being on the job?
So a great way is to do an additional qualification, right? So I know a lot of lawyers who are on the corporate side who end up doing an MBA.
ठीक है.
It's a great way. The other thing is you just, if you've done, so if you, I had absolutely no commercial background. I hadn't even done accounting and finance or economics.
ठीक है.
So, for the young viewers out there, if you do want to go into a career in corporate or commercial law, तो फिर आपने ऐसे modules भी लेने चाहिए, economics लेनी चाहिए, accounting and finance लेना चाहिए, business studies लेना चाहिए. That's one way. If you end up doing a degree which is which has multiple majors. So I know, you can do law and economics, you can do law and accounting, with a minor in accounting, that really helps. If not, it's really how much interest you take in the work that you do. So you can, when you work with your clients also, and it's from a junior stage, आप अगर उनके financial side पे, उनके commercial side पे interest लेंगे, तो there's also a way to self-learn. So a lot of it was also self-taught, just sitting through things with clients and asking them, okay, how does this work? How does this not work? To date, I can't prepare a financial model, but yes, I do know what the variables are. Elements I do know कि valuation की, तीन methodologies क्या हैं, मुझे assumptions का पता है, so I can read and I can advise. So the people who work with me, I can say, look, this is what I need you to do with the model, or this is what's wrong with the accounts, or this is how we need to fix our taxation. So it's more a way of thinking, and I think it's जो वो कहते हैं ना क्यूरियस, आप जितने क्यूरियस हैं, वो कहते हैं ना एक कॉन्सेप्ट है बिगिनर्स माइंड का, बिल्कुल, तो आप जितने क्यूरियस रहेंगे उतनी आपकी ग्रोथ होगी, आप जितने अपने आप को बॉक्स इन करेंगे.
एंड आई एम श्योर क्लाइंट्स डोंट माइंड अगर आप उनसे सवाल करें कि ये कैसे होता है, वो कैसे होता है, दे वोंट थिंक एनी लेस ऑफ यू.
नहीं, उनका तो फ़ायदा होता है, उनका तो फ़ायदा होता है. और बहुत सी दफ़ा यू आर ऑल्सो द निगोशिएटर फॉर योर क्लाइंट, राइट. तो आपको अगर चीज़ें पता होती तो आप निगोशिएट कर सकते हैं. निगोशिएशन इज़ अ स्किल you need in every facet of your life. ठीक है, आप अपने बच्चों से भी negotiation कर रहे हो, जैसे I need canteen money 500 rupees or whatever, and then you're negotiating कि अच्छा तुम्हें क्या चाहिए, क्यों चाहिए. So whether it's there or whether it's going into the market or whether it's in a career situation, it's an amazing skill to have.
हैं law के program, so there are multiple ways कि आप lawyer बन सकते हैं, especially in Pakistan. There are universities जो law universities हैं, plus अब there are these जिनको पहले distance learning programs कहते थे. For example, University of London का एक program है, it's become very popular. What are the pros and cons of these different programs?
So interestingly,
and what do you advise new aspiring lawyers to, which path do you advise them to take?
Look, I think it's, if you can afford to go abroad and study, I think that's an amazing experience to to go to England. You really, अगर आप जा रहे, you need to really study law in England because उसका जो common law का background है वो यहाँ ज़्यादा fit in होता है. Ideally, University of London, yes, is a great program, but it gives you a way of thinking, but it doesn't teach you about the law in Pakistan. So for example, अगर आप कोई local university जाते हैं जो आपको एक डिग्री देता है जिसमें multiple डिसिप्लिन्स हों, और जहाँ पे आप पाकिस्तानी लॉ पढ़ रहे हो या पाकिस्तानी लॉ स्टडी कर रहे हो, दैट्स व्हाट आई वुड रियली एडवाइज, बिकॉज दैट गिव्स यू द स्किल टू अप्लाई योर नॉलेज स्ट्रेट अवे.
ठीक है.
सो as a UK qualified lawyer, what happened is I had to learn the law all over again, right? I wasn't familiar with the company's ordinance or the Contract Act, etc.
सही है.
So each has its pros and cons, but that's something that I would advise.
ठीक है.
But the University of London is a great program because you're done in 3 years, and then what's missing at the moment is that vocational step in. Right, so from like I said, at the study of law and the practice of law are two separate things. So what's ideal is if we had something similar to the bar or the legal practice course जो solicitors करते हैं इंग्लैंड में, जहाँ पे आपने law 3 साल का किया है, 1 साल की आपकी एक vocational training है on the practice of law in Pakistan.
Like an apprenticeship almost.
No,
the articleship.
The articleship is after that. तो आपकी 2 साल की articleship होती है.
ठीक है.
So my advice is to study a Pakistani law degree. I think that's a better way. It provides you an immediate step in.
What do you think about women in the judiciary? अभी recently Aisha Malik was the first woman in history in Pakistan to become a Supreme Court judge. तो judiciary में तो ख़वातीन ज़्यादा है नहीं, तो उसकी क्या वजह है? मतलब why not? Lawyers तो अब फिर भी ज़्यादा हो गई हैं, but judiciary में still.
So I think it takes so obviously आपकी जब आप judiciary में आते हैं high court में, so the age is 45, right? So
Okay.
you require a certain amount to come into the high court. You require a certain amount of experience. There was and is still a very high dropout rate for women coming into not just the legal profession, any profession. और उसकी 2-3 वजूहत हैं. एक तो ये है कि you study and then मैंने देखा है you train for a couple of years and then girls get engaged, then there's a drop off, and then girls get married and then there's a drop off, and then girls have children and then there's a significant drop off. So for women to come into senior judiciary, and I'm not talking about the district court, in the high court you need to have a seniority. So that pool of women who have been not in corporate practice but litigators and also have the requisite number of years of experience, the pool is very small, and hence the pool for the intake into the judiciary is very small. Over time, yes, over the next 20 years, जो आज pool बढ़ गया है, and hopefully that pool remains of a decent size and doesn't shrink as it has done in the past, you will see more women in the judiciary. And
of course, like, because more women will mean that there is an extra sort of point of view, the woman's point of view, and therefore the sort of the justice that's provided will be more sort of balanced, hopefully, right?
I have a very radical view on it. I very much believe in merit-based.
Okay.
Right. So what I always think is, I always say that it's not just ज़बरदस्ती की diversity नहीं करनी है, right? ज़बरदस्ती की नहीं करनी है. आपने you need to make the seat to the table or the seat to the bench, the route, you need to make that equivalent. So औरतों के लिए there are women, उनके लिए there are lots of added responsibilities to get there.
ठीक है.
Right. So that is what needs to be fixed. Yes, women bring a different point of view, as do men, but it really should be merit based. And in order to make sure that women get to that point, we need to provide that route for women to get there.
आजकल judiciary is getting a really bad rap. Why is that? And इसको किस तरह fix कर सकते हैं? Because आजकल खबरों में judiciary बहुत आती है, and it's getting really bad press. So why is that, and how do you fix that?
I think okay, that's a highly politicized question. It's also I saw there's also something called separation of powers, right?
Okay.
In the sense that you look at, we have 3 areas of government, right? You have the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. And the judiciary is meant to perform certain functions, and it's supposed to be impartial, and it's supposed to be able to do a certain amount of lawmaking, which is the interpretation of law. Which is the interpretation of law of what is produced by the legislature.
बिल्कुल.
Right? दो problems होती हैं कि either when the judiciary takes on an expanded role, which is beyond what the interpretation of law is in terms of lawmaking. So that is a problem. The other problem is, of course, the impartiality that and it's not today. It's not today. We're always worried about the impartiality of the bench, right? So those are the two factors behind it, and these have not been concerns today. These are concerns which people have carried on. There are also reasons why foreign investment, etc., from a corporate perspective is affected, because our judiciary is viewed as being very slow, as not being impartial, and then now also adopting a role which is beyond their original scope.
You think your family background in business sort of also helped you have a better business acumen?
I don't know whether it helped me have a better business acumen, but it did. I think वो जो आपकी बचपन की formative चीज़ें होती हैं, that's something I really, I wanted to know what it was like to be out on the ground and creating something and making something. And being in distribution as a woman, it's extremely tough. Like within our operations, we have about 350 people, and there are just 2 of us women. There's one me, and then there's one lady in Lahore.
Okay.
Because of the nature of the business, right?
Okay.
It's It's being out in the field. It's being managing labor, managing logistics, managing warehouses, and it's different from being in a corporate setting. It's different. There are lots of issues in working in the field. So but I love it. Like and it brings getting there in the morning and sitting through the sales meetings in the morning and seeing what the problems are on the ground, how to increase sales, where we need to manage costs, where we need to think of things operationally. It's something which is fed from childhood, basically. And I don't know if it's the acumen, but it's the memory which a little girl holds, basically.
So, आजकल entrepreneurship young people में entrepreneurship का बहुत ज़्यादा रुझान हो गया है. People are just because barriers to entry भी कम हो गए हैं, right? तो like when you advise young people, आप क्या कहती हैं उनको कि किस तरह से should they come into entrepreneurship? अगर आना चाहिए तो क्या prepare करके आना चाहिए? मतलब what advice do you generally give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
So there are two. I think there are two routes, and one is the route that you become an entrepreneur straight away, right? You finish your qualification. Actually, you don't really need to finish your educational qualification. You start a business, and there is the business, the idea part of it, and building the business. And then there are hard realities of running a business, right? Which are skills which you need to have. So that is finance, that's marketing, that's legal expertise, that's taxation. If you've not got career experience of being in a career where you've methodically worked through those aspects, then that is a challenge for young entrepreneurs. So you either need to then concentrate on building your business and then have those relevant people or those relevant those roles being fulfilled by somebody in order to build business, because you can't build business in a vacuum, right? The other route is कि आपने एक structured way में काम किया, right? Within an organization, either an MNC or a large corporate, or where you have, let's say, 5 to 8 years experience, right? And you have multiple exposure in the different fields, so you understand what it takes to build a business. Like you also understand how to hire, what HR looks like. I mean, there are so many concepts to, so many moving parts to building something. मेरी ये advocacy ये होती है कि आप वो करें, second route लें और अपना side hustle ज़रूर रखें, right? So आप सीख भी रहे हैं, आप एक formal अंदाज में सीख भी रहे हैं और आपने side hustle किया हुआ हो और आप उसको भी चला रहे हैं, and then you understand how the two work together, because without knowing what the barriers are, the barriers to entry are less, but इन चीज़ों के बगैर पाकिस्तान में एक business build करना बहुत मुश्किल काम है. Without understanding finance, HR, marketing, legal, taxation, without understanding that, how do you build a profitable business?
So what are the biggest mistakes people make in your experience?
They come up with an idea which, let's say for example, the business model requires some regulatory approval, or the biggest hurdle to making a business financially viable is understanding the concept of ROI or return on investment, right? वो चीज़ आपको ना समझ में नहीं आती है, because there are so many parts to it in terms of an accounting and taxation perspective. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs have great ideas but not know how to make them profitable. If you create a business and it's not profitable, and it's different, जब एक side hustle है वो informal है, वो एक अलग चीज़ है. जब आप उसको formal तरीके में लेके आते हैं, फिर आपने जो है income tax भी देखना है, sales tax भी देखना है, आपने देखना आपकी relevant registrations भी होंगी, तो वो जब आप compound करते हैं तो आपका business की ROI गिर जाती है. तो वो चीज़ जो है ना, it's very difficult for a young entrepreneur to grapple with that and also create a business. एक और चीज़ है कि हमारे यहाँ we have an ageism also, right? So वकालत में ये बोलते थे कि you should, I mean there was a lot of times I used to wear glasses and tie my hair up because that was how I needed people to see me to take me seriously. I know a lot of male lawyers who wait for their hair to grey out, right? Because वो कहते हैं कि client ज़्यादा seriously लेते हैं. तो हमारे यहाँ ageism बहुत ज़्यादा है, right? We don't take young people seriously who are actually out there to create businesses. तो वो भी अभी भी एक barrier to entry है.
तो हम वाकई नहीं लेते, या हमें लगता है कि अगर हम बाल हमारे सफ़ेद होंगे, वाकई नहीं लेते?
हम वाकई नहीं लेते. I mean, I think that's still the case. I think that's still the case. Yes, it's a lot better, but you know, it's difficult. You know, it's difficult to, let's say, if I'm 18 years old and I want to walk in and see the CEO of a company because I want to do a partnership with them. The reality is उस 18-year-old के लिए ज़्यादा मुश्किल है. अगर मुझे उस CEO से मिलके पार्टनरशिप करना है, वो मेरे लिए ज़्यादा आसान है. Why? Because I probably know X, Y and Z and I can go and see that person and I know how to take that partnership forward. So these are barriers of entries which are still very much there.
Give us some life hacks on how to manage your time and how to stay productive.
Managing time is the most difficult, and so if you are inherently organized, it's very easy. Few life hacks, I think. One is you need to constantly remember what it is that you're working towards. And I've always struggled with this. By the way, I have a lot of energy. I'm not a great organizer, so I have always. And then there are always so many things which are coming up with your children and things like that. So one is to, from a very early age, to be focused on what you want to achieve and to have great organizational and time management skills. So you need to know what is most important, you need to prioritize, you need to plan, and you need to be very disciplined with what you want to achieve out of life. And I think that's the biggest life hack, right? So to put in certain things and then achieve those in small bite-sized chunks. So if you want to change something about yourself, and let's say for example you decide you cannot get somewhere on time, that's a perennial Pakistani problem.
Yes,
right?
it is.
So that is perhaps the most important thing to being successful. And I know a lot of people say it's very overrated, or it doesn't matter if you're on time. But you do things like you give yourself an achievement, so you make it tied into your routine that you will wake up at a particular time and do a particular task at a particular time, and putting in those small routine hacks helps you become more organized and more focused on what you want to achieve. Yes, you can't have everything, but you can have an awful lot if you want to have it. That's the thing, and of course prioritizing is really important. So whilst on the face of it, I do a lot of things. At the moment, the priority is, to run the distribution business and to build Swan Valley Tech, and how to take it to the next level, how to do the fundraise, how to build the partnerships, how to build the team, and those are the two priorities which I have. So the tasks which I build around those two things are the things which take most of my time, and everything else is then additional to that.
Speaking of productivity and life hacks and trying to stay on top of your game, but there's a price you have to pay for everything, right?
Yes.
At home you have responsibilities, you have your family. So how do you find the sweet spot जहाँ पर आप family को भी time दे रहे हैं और family से भी you're doing justice, pun intended, and and you're also doing well, you're doing whatever you need to do or want to do in your career as well. How do you find that sweet spot?
Through, like I said, prioritizing. ठीक है, आप prioritize करें, and then you need to be there for the important things for your kids. So you need to, again, you prioritize that these are the important events that I need to be there for, and also you need to be fairly ruthless with how you're going to achieve those. So I love spending time with people, right? And I love mentoring and I love explaining, but that also detracts from my being ruthless with completing a task. So I constantly remind myself that this is the outcome of this particular meeting that I need to do, and I need to do it within this time. And once you've done that, so you can be there for your children at 5:30, provided you make sure that you've woken up early in the morning and you've done whatever prep you needed to do, and you're at work early and you do whatever it is that you need to do at the end of the day, and then you prioritize and you leave at a particular time. Yes, there are things like traffic and other things that could happen. You could have an accident on the way or whatever, but you do, I think you need to be ruthless with yourself and other people also. I know a lot of people so who practice this brilliantly, and I think they're the most successful.
So how do you become tactfully ruthless? How do you hone that skill?
So I think you set out an agenda. So if I'm meeting somebody and I want to make sure that I leave within a particular time, I need to respect that person's time, right? So I need to make sure कि अगर मुझे आधे घंटे में जाना है या 40 मिनट में जाना है, तो I need to make sure कि पहले मैं टाइम पे पहुंच जाऊँ, पहले मैं टाइम पे पहुंच जाऊँ, जो भी मुझे बातें करनी है वो मैं कर लूँ, and we set out the agenda of what we need to do. That I'm here and this is what I need to do, and this is the amount of time that I have, and this is how I will plan my exit, and then not to get detracted on the way. By setting out the agenda and keeping to the agenda, that's one way of doing it. And then not talking about extraneous or other things.
What have you eliminated from your life in order to live the life that you want?
So I still haven't eliminated it. I still have. So my guilty pleasure is shorts.
Oh, really?
So I mean, most people do that, right? It's terrible. It's the worst thing. I mean, I'm on WhatsApp. I don't use any social media other than LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I use LinkedIn and that's for work, and I watch. My worst addiction is YouTube. So just shorts, because it's so accessible
And unending.
And unending. So I do cut back on that at a particular time. I do not allow myself to do that in the middle of the day.
And it's mostly mindless, really, because
it's incredibly mindless.
Yeah.
But for some reason, actually sometimes the mind numbing is good because it helps you go from one task to another task. But I know so many people so social media is the worst. It's not even Netflix, it's social media which is the worst, which takes most of our productivity away. I have as of the 1st of January, I do have a tracker on my phone for the amount of time that I spend on WhatsApp and on YouTube, and I've installed that. So I do start looking at that, and I was really gratified to see that last week I had spent less time on YouTube.
What's your daily average? A personal question, but
it really depends on how busy I am. There are days like yesterday, I really didn't spend any time at all until I came home, and I spent about 20 minutes and that was it, because I had so many tasks, and the tracking of the tasks and the tracking of what you need to get done in the day really helps. And I was just so busy and so focused that I really wasn't distracted enough to do it. Otherwise, yeah, so it could be anywhere up to 2 hours, which is terrible in terms of productivity. I'd rather sleep for those 2 hours.
That makes me feel so bad. That 2 hours is nothing. People spend like 10 hours, 8 hours, on social media every day.
Yeah.
A lot of people do. So what is that one thing, being a Pakistani, तो हमारे लोगों में ऐसी क्या, because you meet a lot of people, हमारे लोगों में ऐसी क्या चीज़ है which really irks you कि यार ये ना करें तो कितना अच्छा हो, कितने ज़्यादा productive हो जाएं लोग, कितने ज़्यादा effective हो जाएं.
I think one is social media again. And the other thing is that we're also very concerned, the gossipy part of it, about what everybody else is doing rather than what we're doing. So we spend a lot of time doing that, talking about other people and doing things which really not contributing. And also I think is one thing is which helps you. I think those are the two main things basically, and also not being there on time. That really irks me. It's something which I'm working very hard. So today also I was like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes before, and I made sure that whatever happened, I left home, and whether I was done or not done, I just left. And so that's something which really not being on time, because it has such a spiral effect on the rest of your day and what you want to do with your day, your month, your life.
Yeah, it's just a bad start to the day.
It's just a bad start to the day.
So you do business in Pakistan. You're firmly grounded in Pakistan, even though you lived abroad, in your childhood. So Pakistan is, it's not an easy place to do business, right? Or to do anything really, right? It's not an easy place to live.
Yes,
और लोग, पिछले साल I think it was a record, some crazy statistics, 70-80 हज़ार लोग, बहुत सारे लोग they're immigrating. They're moving to Canada, Australia, North America. Tell us some good things about Pakistan and why Pakistan is still a good place to live and to do business and work in.
Okay, so Pakistan is a great place to live because it's home. It's home, right? You are welcome here. You're a first citizen here. We have our families here. We have a link to the soil of the land. I think that's a very important reason to be here. It's important for our children, if you're bringing up kids, to have that connection to their culture, whether it's religion, with religion, culture, etc. You can build things here, so it's your own place. Nobody's going to throw you out of Pakistan. You can build. You can choose to build something. You can either have a career or you can run a business. Yes, it's difficult. It is difficult. But I've also seen changes in Pakistan. I've also seen the entry level for women to get better. I've also seen more and more women coming into better positions. The things that I've done with my life, I couldn't do had I been living abroad. Raising 4 children and working full time. I've really never taken time off. Even in maternity leave, the maximum I ever took off was like a month, right? So I've never taken that time off. I had the support of my family. I could, have support of hired help here, and there was that flexibility of being on home ground. I think that's the biggest advantage. And you can build a network here. You can build a network anywhere, but of course you have an inherent network from the people that you go to school with, from your family, from your friends. So you do have a home base to work from. I think that's the biggest advantage.
So tell me something about, tell me more about the Soan. Is it Soan Valley?
It's Soan Valley.
Soan Valley Tech.
Soan Valley Tech. So it's like Indus Valley. Indus Valley was a cradle of civilization where जहाँ पे इल्म और शऊर आगे बढ़ा तो and where population gave way to advanced civilization, education, etc. So Soan Valley is also an area in central Punjab जहाँ पे which is also also an area where civilization grew and where there was innovation, and so that's the idea behind naming it Soan Valley, is to give it a deep connection to Pakistan and the innovation that we are looking to bring in Pakistan.
So what kind of an organization is it? What kind of work do you guys do?
So it was to develop technology around the different projects or the different fields that we're in. So at the moment, Soan Valley has a platform that we're developing called P2. Okay. So P2 is a way to revolutionize and change the supply chain. And our team, so the team behind it are all people who have worked in the relevant fields. So what we aim to do is, not what we aim to do, but we're building that technology. We've already done a POC and MVP of it. MVP of it is we connect all the key stakeholders of the retail supply chain to increase efficiency and solve the pain points of each of them. So the 4 key stakeholders that we see are manufacturers, who we call principals, distributors, retailers, SME retailers, small to medium sized retailers, and providers of capital. And what we do is take the existing elements within the ecosystem. So P2 is not a lender, right, but it will create a connection between the distributor and the retailer and a bank, for example, and enable the bank through a credit scoring system, which P2 is partnered with.
So P2 is a technology?
P2 is technology. It's a pure technology play. What it is it's what we call a fintech B2B. So what we're aiming to do is bring lending, sustainable supply chain financing at the most economical rates to SME retailers, and also give them access to the fast moving, widest variety of cheapest SKUs, which they can get through distributors and not through e-commerce players, for example. So you're taking the elements and the deep knowledge of how these 4 work and bringing them together to increase efficiency only in a way that technology can.
And probably uses AI as well.
Ultimately it will, yes. So our credits, and the main part of it is what we're doing is we're creating that technology, but we're not at this stage trying to reinvent the wheel. So if So for example, the lending could be done by P2 if we create a license for it. But at the moment, P2 will not be the lender. P2 will connect the bank
With the banks.
and the retailer and give the bank access to credit scoring and the history of that particular retailer which the distributor has. And the distributor is an on-ground entity, which has deep connections with the retailer, and therefore also then vice versa helps the bank to maintain that relationship with the retailer, onboard them, see how the loan facility is working, and then also help them to recover. So, and like I said, that it's possible, one, because of the technology, and two, because of the background that each of us has. So, I mean, my journey to this is obviously having the legal experience and the regulatory experience and understanding banking and finance where I've been for the last 20 odd years, and then having the distributor on ground experience and learning how to merge these multiple parties and bring them together, because like I said, there is no substitute for the experience or the expertise. So bringing all of that together, and so where we are in the journey is we've done a POC and an MVP, and now we're building the fintech part of it.
So what part of this sort of this nexus have you automated using technology? For example, banks already lend to SMEs,
Yes.
right? And distributors already work with SMEs,
Yes.
and distributors probably work also with banks. So the connection already exists. What part of this, this relationship or this little ecosystem have you added value to, and how?
Okay, so for banks, yes, they already work with SMEs, but to bring SMEs on board is also a challenge, right? From a taxation perspective, from a financial inclusion perspective, small businesses already have so much to worry about that they're worried about coming within the net of financial inclusion, because they think it'll increase their taxation, it'll give them greater visibility, etc. And banks don't have access to the deep data of small retailers who they want to lend to. What I'm talking about is very small loans, like micro nano loans. And the small retailers are actually very good at paying those loans. So what we do is we make sure that the ordering of the goods is done through the distributor confirms the delivery of the goods, and once they confirm the delivery, then the finance facility or the loan facility is then deducted from the amount available with the bank and paid directly to the distributor, and then the distributor also helps recover that credit. So these parties already work together, but what you're doing is you're using the tech to bring them into a closed loop, and then you also bring in the manufacturer into that loop, so all the data feeds into each other.
And once they're in proximity, then you can actually see more of their problems and solve them.
Yeah. So of course, one of the main thing is recovery, right? How do you recover? How do you assess credit risk? So we use that credit scoring model, and we're not developing our own credit scoring model because that's super expensive. There are great products out there which are already tested in emerging markets, and we're working with a service provider to use that product and to test it for Pakistan. So that makes it easier. Not only does it make it easier because you spend less time building, but it also makes it much cheaper to get that product off the ground.
Are you working with all kinds of banks or just microfinance banks?
No, we're working with a commercial bank.
Okay.
And what we're doing is, you must have heard of this term called embedded finance.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So we're working to create an SME embedded finance product with that particular bank, but we're not restricted. I mean, we will work with other capital providers as well.
Cool. And so what are the plans for Sohan Valley Tech in the future? Do you plan to have your own products only, or do you plan to invest in other products as well?
At the moment, it's just building this product for Pakistan, and then seeing what application it has at a regional level. So that's at the moment, P2 is our main project, and we've won I was one of the winners for SC Women in Tech this year.
Oh yes, you were. Congratulations.
I was for 2022. And they're very, like I said, the very few women both in fintech and as well as on the distribution side. And we've just gotten approved for USAID for park launch as well. So hopefully that will also be coming through. So and then just all the things associated with building and fundraising and busy with that.
This is awesome. So what are some of the, just to conclude, what are some of the, especially in the fintech space, what are some enterprises, startups that you're really impressed with in this space?
In terms of building product, I think I think Abhi is doing a great job in diversifying and bringing secured wage financing. I think they're doing a great job. There are lots of Meds and More is doing a great job, and the constant ability to pivot. I think so. E-commerce is a very tricky space. I don't think that Pakistan for e-commerce, which is why ours is not an e-commerce model, I don't think Pakistan has reached that inflection point for our e-commerce to go to the next level. And that's where it's really important. A lot of these have also pivoted into physical models, and this is something that we've always had a belief in, is that in Pakistan, to take things to the next level, it's still very much a digi-fizzy model, understanding operational reality or operational ground reality, and I think making money, ROI. So if you see these entities, they're also now starting to pivot that way, because everybody realizes that Pakistan still has a way to go before we reach that level of digital uptake and smartphone penetration in order for the e-commerce model to take off.
And you think that e-commerce, that inflection point is coming soon, next year or two maybe?
I think it's a couple of years away. I think so. So for example, we, like ours is a multi-distributor model. At some point, distributors or multi-distribution model should be, or maybe will be replaced by e-commerce. There's a study which says that Indonesia में एक inflection point आया था, and I don't know the data behind this, but somebody said that there was an average of 3 digital orders per day for a certain amount of the population, and that's when their e-commerce really took off. And for that, what's necessary is, of course, having those internet connections across Pakistan and having smartphone penetration. So smartphone penetration is still very, very low. When you talk about smartphone penetration, it's great for KLI, but when you talk about second tier cities and third tier cities, then until you have the availability of services and smartphones, that inflection point is not going to happen.
And then also the level of usage and how people are using those smartphones. Yeah, I mean, are they able to use apps? Are they able to order food with it, order groceries? That's also the next step, right? Once they should have the smartphones, and then they should be able to use it the right way.
I think growth to aa rahi hai, to digital payments have gone up, and I think from a safety security perspective, people are very happy to use digital payment methods. So that growth is there. The next level growth, I think we're a good 2-3 years away. 2-3 years away before we get to that.
Darakhshan, thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure and privilege. And thank you for watching. Darakhshan gave us a master class in law, entrepreneurship, and being generally overall effective. So keep watching Kaam Kahani. See you the next time with another Kaam Kahani. Take care.